Welcome to Let's Talk Criterion. In this penultimate edition for September, we look at 3 films from Gregg Araki that make up the Teen Apocalypse trilogy, coming to 4K UHD. I first saw a Gregg Araki film back in 2004. It starred Joseph Gordon-Levitt as a gay teenage prostitute and an impressive performance from Brady Corbett as another teen, both from the same small town in Kansas. They were narrating separate stories from their childhoods, and that was Mysterious Skin. It was based on the novel by Scott Hine. It was quite an affecting film, with some difficult-to-watch sequences, including child grooming. And that is Gregg Araki'S style of filmmaking in essence. His debut film was Three Bewildered People in the Night from 1987, and it was shot on a budget of only $5,000, what was termed at the time guerrilla filmmaking. Now, Gregg Araki was born to Japanese parents and he grew up in Los Angeles, California, and he enrolled in college at the University of California, and he graduated with a BA from UCSB in 1982, and later he attended the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts, where he graduated with a Master of Fine Arts. Now, the Teen Apocalypse trilogy began in 1993 with Totally Up, followed by the Doom generation 2 years later in 1995, and again 2 years later on, Nowhere in 1997. Now, this trio of films have been characterised as containing teen alienation, hazy sexuality and aggression, and Andrea Sperling produced all 3 films with Gregg. So let's take a closer look at all 3. Totally Up from 1993 is the first instalment, and it's considered now as a seminal entry in the new queer cinema genre. With the 1993 film Totally Up, Gregg Araki, a major member of the new queer cinema movement at the time, offers his own take on the John Hughes mode. It's an abrasive, thrilling, funny, sexy and compelling film that follows a cadre of queer teens living in Los Angeles. Now, rather than being a singular narrative, the film's a series of 15 numbered vignettes. Tracking a cohort consisting of Andy, played in the film by James Duval, boyfriend Stephen, Gilbert Luna, and Derek, Lance May, and lesbian couple Michelle, Susan Beshid, and Patricia, Janae Jill, and Tommy, Rocco Bellick. Throughout, Araki chronicles their misadventures, their traumas, their sexual escapades, and their romantic entanglements, as these 6 characters offer their perspective and their relative experience. Totally Up has the feel of a documentary or video essay, albeit nominally fictional, of course. The vignettes, all 15, are unapologetically heavy, delving into AIDS, heartbreak, gay bashing, and homophobia. And simultaneously, it's barely 80 minutes long, and it maintains a quickness and lightness of touch. Now, it isn't pandering Oscar drama about how traumatic it is to be queer. It's the lives of these young queer people and the joys and troubles that come with being alive. And in this film, Araki employs guerrilla filmmaking on a shoestring budget. A team of young, hungry, unknown actors and a handful of crew, and he operated the camera himself. And the result is very endearing. In addition to its emotional honesty and its guerrilla craft, Totally Up also serves as Araki's tribute to Jean-Luc Godard. Now, this directly references Godard's 1966 film Masculin Féminin, or Quinze Faits Précis, and indeed the homage is quite direct, both in format and in title. Now, I wouldn't exactly say that Araki'S film is a modern update or a queer version of Godard's classic, but by wielding the new wave master's modes, Araki certainly provides space for a demographic to speak the truths and tell, of course, these young people's stories. Totally Up functions the same way. Its characters and their stories are important, but they also tell a wider story about a generation, a moment in history, and the angry restlessness of youth who live in both freedom and oppression. And moreover, on top of its exquisite drama throughout the film, Araki's direction is also quite impressive. There's a late film sequence capturing a homophobic attack via a series of dreadful fades in and out. The sex scenes in the film are both erotic and urgently delivered and filmed with abandon and intimacy. And the film itself makes extensive use of a handheld video camcorder. Now, this is to show that one of the characters provides insight into the lives of other characters by conducting interview-like discussions. Now, the technique became popular throughout the 90s, and it was evident in other films like Reality Bites from 1994, American Beauty from 1999, and from the same year, of course, The Blair Witch Project. Now, this film was shot without permits and it had virtually no crew, and Araki operated the camera himself, as I said. He was accompanied by only a sound person and a producer, and the cast, of course. Now, the film was also chosen to compete in the Sundance Festival, and it received a complete thumbs down review from Roger Ebert. Now, 2 years later, Araki released The Doom Generation. Now, this film is probably the most popular of the trilogy. It was written, edited and directed by Araki himself, and it starred Rose McGowan, James Duval once again, and Jonathan Shaish. And the story follows two troubled teenage lovers who pick up an adolescent drifter, and they embark on a journey filled with sex, violence, and convenience stores. Now, it was billed by Gregg Araki as a heterosexual movie, and of course, it had a larger budget of $800,000. The crew shot in Los Angeles, and they avoided well-known landmarks, instead choosing to shoot in undeveloped areas of urban sprawl. This would give the film an apocalyptic feel. Now, Araki could also use professional film crew this time, making the first of his films not to have him behind the actual camera. And again, the film premiered at Sundance, but this time round it received more critical acclaim, especially when it went to San Francisco International Film Festival. They were stating there that it was Araki's breakthrough film. Amy Blue, played by Rose McGowan, is a beautiful and somewhat spoiled 17-year-old. Her sweet suburban boyfriend, Jordan White, that's James Duval, and Xavier Red, that's Jonathan Shaish, a mysterious drifter, embark on an outlandish trip after Xavier blows off the head of a convenience store clerk, and the trio flee into a bizarre world of nightmarish violence and omnipresent danger that gets darker and darker as their odyssey progresses. Now, while all three are free-floating lost souls, of course, they represent different philosophies of life, and they refuse to be defined by either sexual or ethical orientation. A product of middle-class suburbia, we have Jordan. He is the only kid who has both parents. He's naive, romantic, and none too bright. And then we have a modern Lolita with a touch of Bonnie Parker. Amy's aggressive, foul-mouthed femme is more amoral than immoral. And the most enigmatic character and menacing one is Xavier, whose insatiable libido can be satisfied by voyeuristic masturbation as well as active participation. And violence comes naturally to him. It's one of the film's running jokes, in fact, that whenever the trio decide to stop for fries and drinks, someone ends up dying. Now, the narrative assumes the shape of a nihilistic ballad reflected in the music in the film, and that's provided by Jesus and Mary Chain, Nine Inch Nails, and Porno for Pyros. And most of the film's violence is played tongue-in-cheek, with a hilarious staging, of course, of a severed head or an amputated arm flying through the air. However, the violence present in the finale is unexpected, harsh, and gruesome. Yet, and this is Araki'S greatest achievement, the Doom Generation is a coherent work. Nothing in the film is exploitative. Araki may have been inspired by Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange here, and of course by Peter Greenaway's The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover. Oh, not to mention Bonnie and Clyde, of course. Now, assisted by a talented team, most notably the cinematographer Jim Feely and the production designer Thérèse Desprez, every tableau and colour configuration is breathtaking throughout the film. And in the lead role, the debuting McGowan is incredibly photogenic. She commands the screen with ease and assuredness of a professional. Duvall, of course, who appears in this film, looks and acts like a younger Keanu Reeves and renders a quieter performance throughout, while Shaish projects the kind of eroticism that's both appealing and, at the same time, repellent. Now, the final film in the trilogy, which was made in 1997, is Nowhere. Now, it's like the other films in the trilogy because it also contains scenes of graphic violence and sexuality, a theme, in fact, that runs throughout the entire trilogy. The film notably includes several cast members who were on the verge of stardom at the time. That included Ryan Philippe, Mena Suvari, Kathleen Robertson, and, of course, Denise Richards. Now, the initial reception for the film was mixed, although in subsequent years it has garnered a cult status, and its reputation among critics has grown as a result. The characters Dark and Mel are a bisexual couple, and they're in an open relationship. Mel is dating a girl named Lucifer, whom Dark hates. Now, while Dark is interested in a mysterious boy he keeps running into, that boy's called Montgomery, the three of them meet up at a cafe they frequent, where we are introduced to other teens that they know, such as Alyssa, Dingbat, and Egg, and Dark's friend Cowboy. Now, they discuss a party being held that night by a man they know, and he's called Julie Fruit. Egg runs into an unnamed TV star from Baywatch, and it is in fact the Baywatch actor Jason Simmons. He tells Dark about the heroin addiction his boyfriend Bart suffers with, and he offers Bart the chance to fix their relationship if he stops using drugs, but he declines. Now, Nowhere was initially criticised for being nihilistic, vulgar and vacuous. It's certainly the least discussed film of the cult trio that includes featuring gratuitous sex, disturbing violence, drug use, and a bleak ending. And Nowhere is outlandishly stylish. It's absurd and provocative, yet substance is not sacrificed. The film slyly satirises the teen movie genre itself and our insatiable hunger for love, while also scrutinising celebrity obsession. Now, unsurprisingly, the most striking stylistic element in the film is that it derives its name from an album by Ride. It's a soundtrack, and from the use of Slowdive's haunting Avalon 2 in the opening credits of the film, to the bittersweet twinge of The's Love is Stronger Than Death at the gory conclusion, the soundtrack is a perfect 90s mixtape, and it underscores the emotions and themes throughout the film. Now, it was derided by critics and it was dismissed by audiences upon its initial release, but of course Nowhere has stood the test of time. Now, Criterion brings all three of these teenage angst works to a mixture of 4K and Blu-ray. Now, I'm not sure it all works in 4K because there's a mixture of different film medias used here. Camcorder, 16mm, and then it graduates to 35mm stock in the later films. But the set comes with 3 discs containing the 3 films. 2 are in 4K and 1 is a 2K restoration on Blu-ray, as well as a set of impressive supplemental features. We have a new 2K digital restoration of Totally Fucked Up and new 4K digital restorations of The Doom Generation and Nowhere. They're supervised and approved by director Gregg Araki with a 5.1 surround audio soundtrack. In the 4K UHD edition, we've 1 4K UHD disc of The Doom Generation and Nowhere, and 2 Blu-rays with all 3 films and these special features. New conversation between director Gregg Araki and the filmmaker Richard Linklater. New audio commentary on Nowhere with Araki and actors James Duval, Rachel True, Nathan Bexton, Jordan Ladd, Sarah Lasses, Guillermo Diaz and Jason Simmons. Audio commentary on Totally Fucked Up with Araki, Duval and actor Gilbert Luna. Audio commentary on The Doom Generation with Araki, Duval and actors Rose McGowan and Jonathan Saish. New documentary on the Trilogy's visual style featuring Araki, Duval, the producer Andrea Sperling, cinematographer Jim Feely, costume designers Kathy Cooper and Sarah Jen Slotnick, production designer Patty Podesta, art director Michael Krantz, and hair and makeup artist Jason Real. James Duval's Teen Apocalypse archive, a new conversation between Araki and Duval. Q&As with Araki, moderated by the filmmakers Gus Van Sant and Andrew Ahn. And the Doom Generation video comic book. We have trailers for the films, and of course, as always, with the insert, there's an essay by the critic Nathan Lee. And the cover art for the trilogy is by Fred Davis. Gregg Araki'S Teen Apocalypse trilogy takes the conventions of the American teen movie and transposes them to LA's freaky fringes, and tops it all off with heavy dose of Gen X disillusionment. It joins the collection on Tuesday the 24th of September with a collective spine number of 1233. In the next edition of Let's Talk Criterion, we'll be taking a look at Todd Solondz's controversial film Happiness, and that's joining the collection in 4K UHD. So until then, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.